I've been testing monitors for a very long time here on YouTube. Even earlier, if you count the time before that. And only now do I feel like I've reached the peak of productivity desk setups, and one that I really think has everything that I need, and one also that finally I don't have any needs or wants above what I have. Right, okay, look. After watching this video back, I actually realized that like most of the desk setup is Secretlab, so I actually reached out to Secretlab, asked if they were sponsor a video. They said yes, but not only did they say yes, they actually managed to fix one of the problems I was having with my existing desk setup, which I will talk about in a moment, but thank you, Secretlab. But first, the monitor of this setup is an absolute powerhouse. Now, some people might spend £2,500 on a 27-inch Apple Studio Display XDR. I chose to buy this monstrous 6K, 120Hz, 52-inch Dell Thunderbolt display. Now, this thing has everything that I need in a ultimate productivity setup. High resolution, great pixel density, accurate colors, connectivity for literally anything you could throw at it, a ton of expansion ports with even more made accessible. It has absolutely everything. It has HDMI, DisplayPort, Thunderbolt, plus USB-A, USB-C, also 2.5 gig Ethernet built in, which I don't use, but more on why just coming up soon. It also has unbeatable KVM features with seamless switching of a single keyboard and mouse between multiple devices. It is just an absolute thing of beauty. And just generally, I have used ultra-wide monitors for so many years now that I can't see myself ever going back to just dual, multiple smaller monitors. Just having that one big, wide, beautiful area of space to work with, hands down, beats multiple monitors, a bunch of cables, thick bezels between them, and in some cases, wondering if your machine can even support multiple monitors. Now, it's not OLED, but being an IPS black panel, it still looks incredible, and especially, again, for productivity, it is just perfect. There's no haloing, nothing like that, which I did see on my previous 57-inch Samsung Ultra-Wide, which was also a great screen, but more for gaming, especially sim races, which actually subscribe if you want to see an epic sim racing setup, which we're building soon. And so the 52-inch size of the Dell means that it is big, huge, some would say. But on this desk, there is still space for fairly beefy set of speakers either side, and without it feeling cluttered. Now, the most recent change to my desk setup, however, is the chair. For years, I have used the very expensive Herman Miller Embody chair, and it has been pretty great over the years. Guys, I just looked up the price of the Herman Miller Embody chair. I swear I spent £1,000 on it when I bought it. It is now £1,700. £1,700! And so when you're trying to recommend something to like your friends and family, trying to recommend a £1,700 chair is very, very difficult when the, I think this new Secretlab is like $699. I'm not sure what it is in pounds, but I'll link it down below. But I could buy 3 of these chairs for one Herman Miller body chair. It's just stupid. Oh my goodness. But recently, and no joke, 2 of us here using the same Herman Miller chair kept getting static shocks whenever we touch anything metal in here. So, okay, I'm trying to replicate the fact that this damn chair just, I don't know what it does. It like charges me up with static. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, jump up and down. And this is gonna generate some static electricity, but like I can do this on the Secretlab chair without any problem. So I'm just gonna move around, do that, move around on the floor, spin around a few times, and stuff we're doing for content. Okay, right. I've been on the lookout to replace it with something else. And this is where Secretlab stepped in and did something that I wasn't actually expecting. So they flew me to Secretlab HQ in Singapore and showed me the Secretlab inside of Secretlab, including some behind the scenes testing that I can't tell you about. But I explained my problem, and the next thing I knew, they pulled back the curtain on their latest product launch. Secretlab ATLAS. ATLAS is Secretlab's brand new and first ever task chair. Now, they've taken everything that they've learned from the past decade of making and specializing in chairs and blended it with new features built specifically for productivity, resulting in a damn good chair for getting work done and one that I think will just fly off of Secretlab's shelves. I love that it's slimmer and sleeker, the intuitive controls, and mainly the overall fact that it just keeps me seated in a more comfortable but overall productive way, whilst also allowing the flexibility to relax when needed. So let's start with how it looks. Even at their HQ, one chair in particular immediately stood out to me. It was the June Plus model, which comes in this lovely like sand color that Secretlab's never done before. Now it also combines their nanofoam technology with their soft weave plus fabric for the first time, giving it this much softer touch, and that's the one I went for. Now this model is designed for two modes. You've got focus mode where you're seated in a more upright position for like peak productivity, and a rest mode where you can, lean back and recharge because, let's face it, breaks are needed to sustain long periods of work. Now, if you have heard of the Pomodoro technique, this chair complements it perfectly. It's got short focus sessions of productivity with breaks in between. Now, for me, I find it more comfortable to work somewhere between the two modes. I actually unlock the chair and then set the tilt force tension to setting 2. And now I can sit upright, but then lean myself back and forth whenever I want to. And actually the Atlas lets me do exactly that. And if you are wondering where this fits in with their existing Titan Evo series, I would say that that's designed for a more varied set of activities, as you can kind of see here. And as you can see, once you've reclined all the way back on the Titan Evo, it can be a bit of a struggle to want to get back to work again. Now the Atlas is also a high back chair, which is something that is really, really nice when I'm sitting down for long periods of time. The curvature of the chair fits your spine and your neck. I was told it also has a foam and spring structure, which then microflexes to your movements. And just all in all, I personally feel it gives you just the right amount of lumbar support right out of the box. There is a ton of ways you can tailor the chair to fit you. The seat depth is adjustable to accommodate different leg lengths. The armrests are adjustable too. The magnetic head pillow that everyone loves. I actually learned something. So I used to put the pillow behind my head, and this was actually quite uncomfortable for me, when actually it's meant to be closer to your neck, which now makes a lot more sense. Now, I do think the Titan Evo still has its place, especially if you want to, lay like all the way back, like maybe when mixing up gaming and work and rest. But for me, from now on, this is absolutely staying in my desk setup. It's really comfortable to use. It sets me up in a much better, much more productive seating position for day-to-day work. And just overall, since this is a whole like productivity desk setup, it makes sense to have a productivity focused chair as the centerpiece. Also, and I hear this a lot, in life, there are two important purchasing decisions to avoid, health issues later in life. 1, a good bed. 2, a good chair. This is a good chair. And, well, finally, I no longer get any static shocks when I'm working at my desk anymore, which is just flipping incredible. Okay, now, powering this setup is the M4 MacBook Air. Yes, I know it's not the M5 MacBook Pro model or anything, but genuinely, ever since the M4 MacBook Air and really the M4 chip in general came out, and after using it for well over a year now, there is little to no reason that anybody really needs the power of a MacBook Pro anymore. Not unless you are doing complex video editing or AI stuff. Most people could easily get away with using the MacBook Air as their daily machine. Honestly, even the MacBook Neo is an absolute powerhouse for value for money. But with the M4 MacBook Air, I connect one single cable, which provides power and brings over all of the beautiful connectivity and expandability and everything from the Dell display. Now, I did spec up my M4 MacBook Air to the highest spec at the time because I was a bit nervous from going from a MacBook Pro to an Air, but it hasn't skipped a beat in the last year of using it. So I am limited to just 2 terabytes of local storage on my MacBook Air, but as a business, we either use Google Drive, iCloud, or any combination of our Synology or our Unify NAS to store all of our large video files. And I'm actually in the process of building out my own private cloud storage thing here. Just paying for subscription services is kind of getting a bit old, so again, subscribe for that one. Now, I do also have a PC setup, but since I've moved that over to my TV recently, it doesn't actually sit as part of my desk setup anymore. Now, currently I am switching between the Intel MSI Meg Vision X AI PC, mouthful to say, and also the AMD Alienware, I think it's the Area 51 PC, but both of them are running 5090s, both 64 gig of DDR5 RAM, 2 terabyte SSDs, both of them absolutely fly. And so because it's not then sat, on or under my desk, it just means that I get this really nice, really clean, really minimal desk setup like this. Peripherals wise, just to cover that off as well. So I recently switched back to the official Apple Magic keyboard, mainly for the quick access to the Touch ID button for any time, my Mac needs to prove who I am. I actually prefer the lower profile keys for typing out like long video scripts like I do often. It is just much more comfortable than the, deep mechanical keyboards. It's also quite quiet. Definitely not as loud as like those, click-clack of keys with like the mechanical keyboards. Anyway, and for the mouse, I have been using the Logitech MX Master 3S, but recently Logitech sent out their 4 version, and well, of course I love it because it's the newer version. I think if you have the 3S already, I wouldn't upgrade to the 4, but if you are looking for a new mouse, then absolutely the version 4 one is a fantastic mouse. It's just super customizable with the additional buttons. You've got haptic feedback on the new thumb pad down here, app-specific shortcuts. It just has everything you could need or ever want from a productivity mouse. And I say again, productivity, because this doesn't have like super fast polling rates. It's not a gaming mouse or anything like that. But for productivity, absolutely incredible. Now, with all of that said, and even with the Dell Thunderbolt display dock expansion thing, the MacBook Air is still quite limited in terms of connectivity. Now, yes, the Dell does include a 2.5 gig wide Ethernet port, but given that I am regularly dumping 50 to 100 gig plus of video footage onto our NAS every single week, that 2.5 gig port can really slow things down. So something else is needed, and that is where the CalDigit TS5 Plus dock actually comes in. Now, firstly, it gives me 10 gigabit Ethernet to the rest of my network, and that speeds up dumping all of that video footage onto our Synology NAS. Also very handily, it has front-facing SD, micro SD card slots along with USB-A, USB-C, headphone output if needed. Then on the back, it gives me all of the other expansion that I need. It's a truckload of USB-A and C ports, and that means that I can hook up the rest of my audio interfaces and the mic interface and the webcam and all the other bits. So how I have this hooked up is my Mac connects to the CalDigit via a single Thunderbolt cable, which then, charges my MacBook Air and sends all the stuff through. Then from the back of the CalDigit, I go from the Thunderbolt port to the Thunderbolt port on the Dell display. And because that's Thunderbolt, it does, data and display, and any devices that then connect in via Dell's expansion ports also get brought back through to the Mac. And I absolutely love this. It just keeps things like very clean with the smallest number of cables possible whilst getting fastest speeds, best display quality. Now, speakers are also an important part of the desk setup here. Day to day, I don't use really any headphones because, well, most of them will squash the hair. Now, a year ago, I looked at significantly upgrading my audio setup, aiming for just the very, very top in terms of audio quality. So I bought a pair of KEF LS50 Meta speakers. Expensive, yes, but my God, do they sound incredible. Now, the only problem I had was that I had no way to actually connect my Mac to these speakers. There are various different models available. I decided to go for the non-wireless Bluetooth kind of connectivity monitors for some reason at the time. I think maybe it was pricing. So the first step was getting the amp. And I looked around, and without really wanting to blow another bank account's worth, I settled for the WIM amp, W-I-I-M. I don't know how you pronounce that, which is a very smallish silver amp that sits very nicely under the shelf here. And then the second step was how to connect the MacBook Air into that amp. And for this, I actually realized that the CalDigit TS5 Plus headphone output supports up to 32-bit, 192 kilohertz sample rates, which means that I can go straight from the CalDigit into the WIM amp and get the highest quality audio possible. So all that's left now is a quick jump into the Mac audio settings to get everything set up. And now I can enjoy listening to the highest quality audio possible. Plus, of course, as long as taking advantage of all my latest obsession with buying and ripping physical media. And, obviously what you're listening to needs to be high quality as well. So like lossless and above and FLAC files and all that kind of good stuff. I won't get into the details just now. Oh, and the last piece of the speaker puzzle here. I used to have these sat on my desk directly, but I bought these Kanto speaker stands from Amazon, which then lift the speakers up around about ear height, which just, again, stops all of the sound bouncing off the desk and overall like muddying the audio. Just overall, this setup is just absolute chef's kiss when it comes to audio. Now, rounding off the audio setup just for other bits, recording voiceovers, hopping on video calls, I also wanted the best sounding mic setup. So the Shure SM7B is the industry standard when it comes to incredible sounding mics. Podcasters use them, singers use them, and yes, lots of YouTubers use them too. So I have this hooked up to an Elgato low profile mic arm mainly because Secretlab don't actually sell one of those yet, maybe soon. It has a built-in magnetic cable management to keep the cable like tucked away, and that runs into an Elgato Wave XLR mic USB interface. Mouthful of words. Now this one gives me quick access to my mic levels. I can tap to mute it, and if I didn't want lossless audio, I could also have my speakers hooked up to here as well, just to have quick access to changing the speaker volume as well. But since my CalDigit TS5 Plus runs a higher bitrate for audio, I have it running via that instead. Right, let's get on to all of the rest of the Secretlab stuff now, because Secretlab are a big part of this desk setup in so many different ways. Now, one of the challenges with having a monitor this big is that it takes up, as you can see, a lot of desk space. Even though the included stand is still quite minimal and low profile, it still does intrude on your desk. So for the longest time, I've always been a huge fan of freeing up that desk space by using a desk-mounted monitor arm. But finding a monitor arm that can actually support the weights is kind of difficult. Now, a few years ago, Secretlab came out with a heavy-duty monitor arm, and as soon as I saw that it was a thing, before it was even available, I was right in their inbox, nagging them to send me one so I could actually go and check it out. And actually, the 57-inch Samsung monitor I was using at the time was drooping. It just looked awful on the old monitor arm I was using, but this thing works brilliantly. And although this video may sound like I'm, absolutely glazing any and every Secretlab product, they just continue to surprise me with the quality of all of their products. I never thought I'd love a desk as much as I do as their desk, which we'll talk about more in a moment. The new Atlas chair are exactly what I needed, and even something as simple as a monitor arm has been meticulously designed through and through. From the low profile mechanism that clamps down securely onto the desk, but can also work on the desk riser like I use. Okay, big caveat here. I was chatting with Secretlab about this, and they really didn't like the fact that I mounted the heavy duty monitor arm to the riser. Oh, no, you can't, no. So massively against their recommendation, and you shouldn't do it, but I do get this question asked a lot, so yeah. To the built-in cable channels that manage all of the messy wiring, to the VESA mounting plates and the safety catch system that means you aren't playing with fire whilst, holding a screwdriver in one hand and trying to hold the monitor in the other whilst trying to mount this. And actually, the fact that I can mount this huge 52-inch monitor on my desk by myself just goes to show how well this whole product has been designed. Plus, if you wish, there are removable handles that make adjusting the monitor's position that much easier. So yeah, I am very aware that I sound like, I guess the equivalent of an Apple sheep right now, like a Secretlab sheep, but just let me explain for a minute. Now, I've always used wooden desks, like cheap ones, expensive ones, the good old classic IKEA one, Herman Miller, thick, massively heavy ones, and none of them have impressed me as much as the Secretlab Magnus Pro XL that I have here. Now, at the heart, sure, it's a sit-stand electric desk, and if that's all you need, then there are a ton of cheaper alternatives available. But where the Secretlab one stands out to me is that in all of the little details that, on the face of it, you wouldn't notice, the fact that the electronic controls are built into the desk and not this separate module that's then screwed in underneath. And the desk has a built-in power switch. These other desks are so sensitive. Do you know the number of times we have leant over or brushed past one of the other desks here and then accidentally triggered the desk to start, going up or down? So frustrating. Then there's also the built-in power cable, which then plugs one end in one of the legs and the other end comes out at the top in the cable management tray, which just, again, makes hiding pretty much all of the messy cabling so much easier without having to go onto Amazon and buy cable ties and sticky pads and all sorts of other things that I used to do before this desk. And the same goes for the optional Ethernet extender that, again, magnetically snaps onto the desk and just does the same thing with my hardwired connection without having all these loose wires trailing from my desk. desk. I can raise or lower my desk without worrying about any cable snagging or catching or doing anything like that. Just small details, like the whole desk being magnetic, which means the Secretlab magnetic cable anchors can also be used to effortlessly tidy the cables, or use them to keep the cables that, do need to be on display tidy as well. And the desk mats, like you can switch up the look of your desk by just switching the perfectly sized desk mats out, and they have a whole range available to suit whatever style or color scheme you're going for. They have a ton of collabs with well-known brands, Pokemon and Star Wars, all sorts of things. For this desk we went for just a regular black leather, but the one in front of me here, we have like another white desk setup where we have this like grey suede material that I think also looks pretty awesome. And just all of the accessories, the magnetic headphone hanger, the under desk PC holder, and just a buttload of other options for monitor arms and laptop mount attachments. It is just like, look, people comment on Apple's quality of products, like how they're packaged, how they're built, and there are so many similarities here with Secretlab. And for a company that specializes in chairs and desks, that is quite unique to see and makes the whole user experience just really seamless. Now, we like them so much that we also picked up a white version, so we have this whole like light mode, dark mode desk setup thing going on here. It's just absolutely awesome. But anyway, outside of all that stuff, let's move on. There are also some other smaller accessories that I still use every single day that form part of the desk setup. So webcam wise, pretty simple one. There is the Insta360. I can't figure out how my finger works with video. Insta360 Link 2. This one, which has this little, gimbal headphone head thing that follows you around. And now, generally speaking, I kind of don't like Insta360. They have a bit of a habit of paying influencers next to nothing and then asking people to not disclose that they're being paid, which is pretty shady. But I am yet to find a webcam that performs better than this one does. I've bought a lot of them over the years, and none of them come close to the quality here. You get great picture quality, the tracking feature is great, although most of the time I just leave it switched off and disabled and I just use it as a fixed webcam instead. As much as I hate them, it's just a great product. Now, in terms of charging, every desk setup needs a charging station, and my go-to is this ESR Qi 2 3-in-1 phone charger. Now, this charges any phone with faster 25-watt charging speeds. It's magnetic as well, so Pixels and any phone with a magnetic phone case can also charge here, and it keeps my phones in easy reach and stores them at an angle where I can quickly check on notifications if needed. There's an Apple Watch charger on the back, earbuds charger underneath, and I keep the charger for my Ultrahuman ring on my desk, so kind of once a week I can just switch out the USB-C cable from my ESR charger to the Ultrahuman ring charger instead. And just generally speaking, that's all I ever really need. And then also, let's just cover off what's not on my desk, but I also get a lot of questions about this as well. The wall behind me. Now, I have two panels from the Wood Veneer Hub, which are these like semi-acoustic wooden panels, slatted wall panels. They're like all over YouTube and all over the internet. Like every podcast studio has one now. You just cannot get away from them. Now, I also got the optional LED strip things that fit into the channels within the slatted walls, which again gives really, really nice backlighting. Looks awesome. Love it. And then in the middle up here, I actually have a fake plant grass wall thing, which I just bought from Amazon. It's super cheap. They just snap together, then you attach them onto the wall, which I think just finish off the whole look. And it's much better than just, staring at a black wall. Much nicer to stare at a fake plant wall instead. But I will have this and everything else I've spoken about linked down below in the video description. A huge thank you to Secretlab for sponsoring this video. Absolutely love your products. Please just send me everything you ever make, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.